can't say anything too messed up. All right. Let me just go ahead and pull a. I forgot all my stuff. How did I forget my stuff today? Yeah, it's all in it, so it's not a big deal, but I'll bring them next time. Okay. And we'll go down here. So everybody can see it here. There's literally no one in here. Let's start with this. Okay. All right. Structure. Because nothing ever bad happens in Canvas, ever. Nothing bad has ever happened there. All right. Bookstore. And everything else. Everything else is.
I don't care if they do it. The bookstores.
Trust me, they're not gonna see it. There's no one even watching the videos anyways. Like online, there's no one watching any of the videos. So, and there's like 9 other people in this class. Right? And watching the videos. It's funny to me. No, I don't want to save it. Sorry, this is my little slice of heaven.
Some people can do that on YouTube, man.
Probably not in here. Probably not in here. Not in here. The thing is, this is so different than anything else you do. The China class or Japan, there's just no real way to fake it. It's really hard to fake it. Okay, so as you'll see, what I've decided to do is cut off chapter 4 from this section.
Okay.
We'll finish 3 and we'll have essay and exam. It'll be less material, so theoretically you should do better, right? Essay 1's already up. I just put it up. Okay.
How long do we have to do it?
I think I put it for March 7th as the due date.
Okay.
That's roughly 2 weeks, right?
Is that 2 weeks?
Something like that. Sorry, I don't do calendars. I can do math, but I can't do calendars. The 7th is not this Sunday, but the next Sunday. So that's a ways from now. So it's not a big deal. I haven't done it yet, but I think I'm gonna set the due date for the exam part for March 4th. Okay, it's multiple choice. So here's what I'm thinking. Now just stop me if I'm being stupid or something, okay? If you take the exam and it's objective and you don't do well, you'll put more effort into your essay, right? And realize you don't know a lot, right? No?
I just try to put everything into everything I have, so
So,
I never know which one's gonna fail.
I guess so. I just thought it would be easier that way. You'd have some sort of feedback about what you know before you turn in your essay.
Okay, everything that we're taking on this test is going to be in those modules, right? So I can go.
Yeah, it's already up. Everything's already up too.
And it's open book.
Yeah. That's not gonna help you too much,
I know.
I suspect. I mean,
But you're gonna have do you have a outline of the test?
yep, it's right here. All the concepts that will be evaluated on the exam. I haven't finished making the multiple choice questions, but I'm like, I think I'm like right here so far. So it'll have those 3. So that's 14, 30, 39. That's not a lot. I think in other classes I've had 70 before. So that's not a lot.
And how long will we have it think today?
I don't know. How many questions do you want? 20, 25? And then an hour to do it? You know,
Okay.
I don't want to make it unlimited. Because then no one has to study for any reason, right? Because you can just look through every single answer in there as slow as you need to. If you put a time limit on it, people have to know things before the exam, right? So the idea is, oh, if you already know 20 questions without looking at anything, you can solve the other 5 pretty quickly, right? If you have enough time, you know what I'm saying, right?
No.
If you can do those 20 questions in 20 minutes, you have 30 minutes to answer 5, which means your score is going to be very, very high, right? But if you don't know anything beforehand and you're sitting there trying to look it up and you have one little thing where your brain goes off a little bit, right? Bad things start to happen to grades on exams. So it rewards people who, yeah, and then, so for example, I can tell you.
Classes have the study sheet, and it would have been really nice for him to tell me that, the counselor, he's really a good guy, you know.
Good people. All right, so for example, I think I'm trying to think of, I'd be giving one away, but it's not that big of a deal. I think I have which one of the following is an assumption of rational choice theory, and it has like 5 little things, right? So it'll have choice 1, 2, 3, and then I'll have all of the above and then none of the above, right? So, so yeah, that's the way that it would go.
Organization.
Yeah, they, remember that's whenever they take certain parts, whenever they had that Western challenge, right? And some people wanted to take some parts of the old Chinese Confucian stuff, right? With some a little bit of the Western methods, right? In order to do better, right? Wait, which one's Mao? Is he selective, iconoclastic, or native? He's iconoclastic, right? He wants to burn down Confucianism. Yeah, traditional Chinese society. Yeah, he definitely is that, right? And so that's what it'll look like there, right? That one's not on there. I just thought about it now on the fly. That could have been a question. That would be a hard question in my mind. I'm just trying to get, do you know functional things, right? The stuff that we covered. So yeah. Any questions about it so far?
It is mostly gonna be like from the PowerPoint.
Yeah, when I made those questions, I looked at the PowerPoints to do it.
Okay, everything is gonna be on the PowerPoint.
Or can be applied from the PowerPoints. Right, so for example, that question we just did about Mao, you could imply that from there, but it doesn't say specifically Mao is a, yeah, that's what I mean by that.
And you gotta understand the material.
You gotta understand the material, but if you had that, and let me just tell you, the book will help you too. If you read those chapters, they're, as we've gotten further and further into it, he's a lot better, right? It really appears that he's an expert, not on Imperial and Republican China, but as you get into Mao's world, and also having read.
So chapters 1, 2, and 3. Right?
Yeah. So it's only about 80 pages anyway. It's not crazy. But you can go back. So, okay with that? Yeah.
Okay, yes, sir.
I see a lot of hundreds in the room already. Right? I see a lot of them. No. No, that's okay. I can live with it. And then here's essay 1. Okay. Whenever you did it, I'll read it out there so even our people in the World Wide Web.
You guys never do limit on words.
Nah, look, if you get past 10 pages, you're not gonna do well. That's garbage at that point. Sorry, right? None of you should be able to write 10 pages on this. None of you should not be able to write 3 to 4, right? There's a happy little median of probably somewhere between 3 to 5, I would think. Okay.
Double space.
Yeah. I limited the submission types to Word files and PDFs. When doing so, ensure that you maintain the highest levels of professionalism, right? Don't write out like the zoo and turn it in, right? My rule of thumb is if you treat the document as though it is a letter of interest for your dream job, it is hard to go wrong. Right? You take that sort of care with writing something, good things usually happen for you. Make sure you write well, okay? Um, don't write China be good, America bad, right? Or something like that, right? Use proper grammar, those type of things. Here's some of my hints and tips. Some of you know this from being in my courses before. Try to avoid passive language if at all possible, right? He knew her is a lot better than he used to know her, right? It's the same exact meaning. You just added 2 words for no apparent reason, right? And you show that you don't even know the proper verb tense, right? That's when my mind goes, not good, right? And look how much cleaner it is, right? It's 3 words. It's very clear exactly what's going on here. Okay? Does that make sense? Don't overcomplicate sentence solely to sound smarter. Okay? Use he crossed the street instead of the gentleman perambulated athwart the thoroughfare. Okay? This is not an exercise to see if you have a thesaurus at home. Okay? Write naturally, what comes naturally. It'll make sense, right? And I'll be able to see it a lot better. You don't want to overcomplicate things just to sound smarter. I'm not impressed with that. Maybe some people are, right? But I much prefer sharp, concise writing as opposed to wordy English. No, oh, you can say that, can we?
What are you gonna say?
Flowery, yeah, like, this is not the English department, we write technically, okay? That's what we do.
Now, this is what happened.
This is what happened. We are technical writers in political science. We are not flowery writers.
I had to learn that on the fly.
We are technical writers. We write about technical things. I know that sounds weird, but it's true, okay? We want what the story is and why it happened. Not how it happened. Not, what someone's mental thinking was whenever something could have happened, but it really didn't, right? What they were anticipating, we don't anticipate anything. We write what happened, okay? That makes sense?
The prompt is what we're talking about.
Yeah, and I'll get to it here in just a second. Edit multiple times, and that does not mean spell check. Right, some people only spell check, and that's bad, okay? I don't have a copy of it with me, but I wish I could show you before I send something what my drafts look like, right? Usually, although they're a lot longer, but 300 to 400 corrections, right? Because I'm trying to make sure that every sentence is exactly what I want it to say, okay? And I usually have a very good understanding of what I want to say. And so you should do similarly, right? You can go down in every sentence and say, what in the hell am I trying to get across here, right? Then ask yourself, does this sentence do that? If it doesn't, delete it. If it does, go on. It's not hard, all right? Sorry, this is, I feel like I'm teaching an English class right now, all right? My brother was so bad. He was so tough on me. One time I got threatened with physical violence. He said to him, if you ever turn a piece of shit like this ever again to me, I'm going to take off my leg and hit you with it. He was missing a leg. I've never threatened an undergraduate violence or a graduate student, right? My time here at UTV, so I think I'm okay. All right. When writing, use as much detail as possible. I simply don't know what you know, right? And so you may know something, you may seem like, oh, it's kind of common, it's kind of common knowledge. Make sure you put that in there sometimes, just so it's clear to me, right? So there you go. This is your opportunity to show me that you know what you're talking about, okay? People can get lucky on multiple guess sort of objective examinations, right? There's no luck involved here, okay? This is a much more genuine evaluation of whether you know things. Okay, make sense? Use examples, okay? I'll grade it on an A+ to F scale. I almost put F-, but I can't actually put an F- in Canvas, they don't allow it. I wish I could, all right? Especially in 2035. Yeah, minus, right? It's below F. Is that possible? All right. So, prompt. When Mao took power in 1949, he did so really peacefully, right? No. Okay. He showed nothing but contempt for Confucian values that defined Chinese governance for hundreds of years. Okay. In a well thought out and written essay, detail the differences between Confucian governance and Maoist governance, and provide an argument for whether Mao Zedong successfully transformed Chinese society and governance from its Confucian roots. Okay? Let me just tell you, the yes answer is easy, right? But it's not very insightful. The no answer is hard to do, but it's got huge insight points, right? It shows that you can think. So most of you will be extremely risk averse, all right, and not go that route. But if you want to, there's, what can I say? There's a huge reward if you go with no, right? If you can do it well, right, and show that it has it. Okay. But that's a hard one. It's hard, right? You have to think about it really, really for a long time in order to be able to do it. I would answer no, just for the record. Yeah, but I like this stuff, right? Just a hint on that, they're both authoritarian, right? What's the difference? Was there a time? Did you get any closer to the leaders under communism as opposed to Confucianism? Right? That's why I like that answer a whole lot better. But you can go about it however you like. All right. That's a hard one. If you go no, it's hard. If you go yes, communism, blah, 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 blah. Right? All right. Everyone okay with that? At least moderately okay? I was thinking about setting it March 4th. I haven't finished all the questions, so I'll do that, but plan for it as March 4th. And we'll put 1 hour on 25 questions. Is that okay? It'll be somewhere close to 40 questions total in the bank. It'll give you 25 random. All right. Yeah. All right. Everyone okay with that? If you're not, you're just gonna have to deal with it probably. It's tough, right? Life's tough being a student. All right. Let me go ahead and pull up the rest of our notes to finish it off because we're almost done. I think we can. Yeah, we probably can't finish today because I'm lazy, but we'll be very close. Let's see. Right. Right. We do campaigns and struggles, right? Yeah. Did we do this one? Tens of millions of citizens were tortured, incarcerated, and deeply wounded. That's a sentence from your book, but it's not a good sentence, is it? Right? Tens of millions of other citizens were tortured, incarcerated, and deeply wounded. Is it possible to be tortured without being deeply wounded? No. Right? Political science, we delete the deeply wounded. Right? To make it more. We did? Okay. And children to denounce and beat their backward parents. Right? All right. So we're talking about beating people's parents, right? All right. Okay. By the way, no one froze, right? During the winter storm, did anyone freeze? No,
No
we're all
water
okay.
for 7 days.
You didn't have power for 7 days?
No water.
We only lost power for like a day or so.
Life to the farm, that's why this has all been tough, because we haven't, you try to do this stuff without a computer.
Yeah, well,
It was death.
hopefully,
I had 5 children, it was.
my kid was like, afterwards, he was like, Dad, I'm never gonna stop watching TV in case the power goes out again. So, because he had to go without it, right? So he goes, Dad, I'm just never gonna stop now. And I'm like, you're not gonna sleep? No. Alright, so,
It was horrible, I'll tell you that.
yeah, alright. It's really terrible. People actually had to spend time with their families. It's really bad, isn't it, right? So, there we go. Alright. Over the 27 years that Mao ruled the PRC, millions of people died as a direct result of political struggle. When we talk about Great Leap Forward, we'll realize that millions, tens of millions more died from famine. When we say direct, we mean the government directed for people to be tortured, killed, that sort of thing. If the government created policies that lead to famine, that's not considered a direct death, okay? I know maybe a distinction slightly without a difference, all right? But there we go, okay? People's families would be expected, okay? Expected to come down hard if their family member was one of these targets of a struggle campaign, okay? Wives expected to divorce, they're reactionary, right? Reactionary is, in sort of Marx terms, a right-winger, right? Reactionary husbands and children to denounce and beat their backwards parents, all right? Not good, okay? Yeah, so remember that also, under communism, and especially under this brand, right? Families are not strong, okay? Let me rephrase that. Families are not supposed to be strong. Remember that a lot of times, especially when you think about it in capitalist countries where there's a pretty strong religious component, families are very important, right? Staying together, mother, father, brother, sister, those nuclear families. Since religion is almost never tolerated in communist nations, okay? Because the state is all powerful, right? It's hard for a state to be all powerful if there's religion. It's hard, okay? So they ban most religions, and so the state is your family under communism for the most part, okay? That's what brings you together. Your family is just something you're born into, okay? It's just a thing, okay? And for that reason, you see this, okay? All right. Everyone okay with, not okay with it, right? But at least understand, all right? All right. One of the most enduring and substantive Mao's political program was the virtue of egalitarianism, which Mao meant primarily frugal living. Now, Mao himself did not live frugally, okay? Houses and different palaces. He had a pretty decent setup, okay? In a desperately poor country such as China, it still is today, right? I know we think of things being different there. There's still millions of people in poverty, okay? GDP per capita in the 2000 level, okay? Not, to put that in perspective, per capita income in the US is something around 37,000, whereas in China, it's probably now about 5,500, right? That's how much money you can be expected to make in a year, okay? That's really low still. Part of it's because they have such a big population, but it's still not good, okay? There was no practical way to raise most people's standard of living. Okay? And here's a good way to think about it. In this room right here, if I gave each one of you $5,000, right? Would your standard of living improve? Probably, right? If I just handed you $5,000, right? Things would be better for a little bit, right? Now, imagine a room of 500 million people, right? How do you generate that sort of wealth? You can't, right? And so what happens is not that everyone comes up, it's that a lot of people go down. Okay? Does that make sense? Right? When you're thinking about distribution, incomes from the highest are going to come down. That's redistributing wealth, that sort of thing. But it's not going to lift anyone out of poverty. Right? I think Margaret Thatcher once famously said it at the House of Commons, right? He said, someone talked about income inequality, right, in the UK whenever she was there, and she said to the Labour MP, would rather us all be poor than a couple of us be wealthy, right? Right, if you ever get a chance, C-SPAN, Saturday evenings, they have question time, right? And as Robin Williams once famously said, the House of Commons at that time is like the House of Representatives, except with a 2-drink minimum, right? And they go after each other, right? It's very boisterous, that type of thing. So if you ever watch it, oh, it's great fun, right? Because they always, imagine if beforehand, the president didn't get the questions, okay? And he went to the House of Representatives and had to answer all of the questions of the House of Representatives, the ones they want to ask. Oh man, a bonfire, right? It's just be a complete mess, right? And so that's what you get in the House of Commons. So it's really special. You know, you get that. All right. I pay good money to see it though, right? They put that on here. You make any president, it doesn't matter if it's the current one or whatever, right? Go and answer questions for a couple hours down there. All right. He believed the poor were inherently more willing to build a new society because they had so few vested interests in the old. Okay? That's interesting, right? That's why poor people don't vote too, right? What interest do you have in tax rates? Right? You're barely trying to make it and you're working all day every day. It's the same sort of idea. Okay? He constantly exhorted his fellow colonists to live simply, both because it would reduce the distance between them and the masses, and because he felt that poverty itself created a more virtuous person. Okay? I still don't want to be poor. I'd rather be rich and not virtuous, to be fair. Right? But that is a part of this.
You live in America and you have the ability to do both.
Yeah, well, you can be poor if you want. Not everybody can be rich,
I was
right?
talking about being virtuous.
Oh, no.
You can be virtuous and still make money.
Not as much as I'd like to make. No, I'm just kidding, right? What's the saying? Behind every great fortune is a great crime, right? And so, so there we go. All right.
And
You
it
know,
started in the House of Representatives.
Yeah, well, the Kennedys, right? Weren't they bootleggers? They were bootleggers during Prohibition, right? That's how they made all their money.
That's how they made most of their money.
Yeah, it was through bootlegging, technically a crime, right? I mean, to me, Prohibition as a crime is kind of I wouldn't care. I would have been boozing it up.
I'm a pastor and I think that's about retarded.
Yeah,
I would have
it's
probably been.
the, what do they call it? The what? Not tolerance, but I can't, movement or whatever. I can't remember it now. It's not a big deal, but yeah, In America, yes, you're right, you can be virtuous and be rich, but usually it's get rich and then you get virtuous, right? You know what I mean? Like, once you've done your crime, then you repent, right? But you still have the money to go do all these other things, right? At least that'd be my strategy.
That sounds like our world.
So, all right.
That's fun.
That's why I always see the rich people are always at church, right? They got a lot to be thankful for, right?
Poor people at church too.
Yeah, there are.
I've got a good minister.
Of course, there's both, but, obviously, at least I'm not church, right?
So you can't come to my church, you're not rich enough yet?
You're not rich enough yet. Well, I go to First Pres in Midland, which is notoriously wealthy, right? And, you'll see meat coats, stuff like that, it's just like, what is this, right? So there we go. All right. Anti-intellectualism, okay? Oh, I missed that typo, didn't I? Was only marginally an intellectual. He liked to think of himself as an intellectual, but he really wasn't, okay? He had obtained a solid education in both classical and modern learning, but he had not achieved high intellectual standing, okay? He worked for a while in the library of Beijing University, where he gained access to leading currents of political thought in the country, but he was not on the level of a student or professor at the institution, okay? He just wasn't very bright. He just was not intellectually gifted, okay? Now, he was very organizationally gifted, right? I mean, to do the things that he did takes what we would call street smarts, right? And those are two totally different things. But whenever you realize about all the anti-intellectualism that's going to occur, okay, you always have to wonder if he would have been better in school, if that might have gone away a little bit, okay? Because remember that under Soviet communism, anti-intellectualism was a thing, but not nearly like this, okay? And that's why we also remember too that Soviet is Soviet communism was built in cities where it had to have intellectuals, it had universities, that type of thing. Whereas in China, that's a rural one where people didn't have education. Okay, and so. All right. Mao disdained intellectuals as people who studied books and then put on airs about their supposedly superior knowledge, right? In Mao's world, would I be alive? You probably wouldn't be either, right?
Going to school.
Pastor right here would definitely not be alive. A Christian pastor in Mao's China, nope. Right? You would have been
much of it. They killed them right and left.
Yeah. So
if there was a missionary, they were dead.
Me and you would be in the gallows at the same time, right? And so, yeah. They thus violated 3 of the cardinal sins in Mao's political universe, okay? They did not dirty their hands by going out among the people to learn about real conditions, okay? They were naysayers who constantly pointed to technical constraints on actions that Mao innately felt the masses could accomplish if properly motivated by torture, right? Other sort of things, right? They reinforced social inequality by their era of superiority, okay? Social inequality. Mao's probably right about that. Right. Mao was probably right about that. The other 2, yeah, not so much, okay? All right. Mao's dislike of intellectuals deeply affected the Chinese polity. Intellectuals early on became key targets of these struggle sessions, okay? During mass campaigns, they were forced to engage in manual labor and suffered myriad other humiliations, okay? Here's a quote from your book. It's really, really good. He's talking about the kings, Okay, they were sort of the Imperials that would kill some of the intellectuals. He buried only 460 scholars alive, right? We have buried 46,000 scholars alive. You intellectuals revile us for being King Shi Hong's. You are wrong. We have surpassed King Shi Hong 100-fold. End quote. Not good, right?
Wow. So they killed their scholars.
Well, yeah, they were killing, to be fair, they were killing everybody. But intellectuals especially so. Scholars, those types, they didn't make it very long. Okay, they don't make it very long in any communist regime, to be fair. Just wait till we get to the Great Leap Forward and to the Cultural Revolution. You're gonna go, oh
I
man,
read someone now,
Cultural Revolution is special.
he killed his only hope.
46,000, right? And yeah, alive, right? I mean,
You ain't talking about killing him.
I just,
Buried him alive.
this may be a little bit off topic, but I think I'd just rather be shot, to be fair. Right? Just get it over with. I would rather be shot than be good. Like, if those are my only two options, right? Option one is live, right? If the only other options are be buried alive or be shot, shoot me right now. Let's get
Three
this
of the worst
going.
deaths: suffocation, drowning, and burning. Those
I
are
think-
the worst.
Okay, now this is kind of weird. Would you rather be burned alive or buried alive? Maybe buried?
Yeah.
I think buried would be less pain.
Would it take longer than?
Okay, you're burning.
Yeah.
You're burning and you know you're burning and you're on fire and your body is literally cooking and you know it. I
That's
don't know.
bad. That's bad. I gotta admit, that's bad. That's bad right there.
I think
That's bad.
and take it from me, I've been to the burn ward.
Uh-huh.
I'd rather, if you.
Yeah, it's
live-
not good.
Yeah, I would rather dirt.
Terse.
Put the dirt over me and suffocate me and die. If you're.
Neither is great, to be fair, right? I mean, neither is like, I wanna just like die in my sleep, right?
I can't even watch those movies when they put them in those coffins and
Oh,
put them in the
no.
ground and they're trying to get out, you know,
No.
CSI or, oh, it just unnerves me.
That's terrible.
Cause I pretend myself being there and it just, no.
Yeah. I've always wanted to, you know, like, I don't know. Okay,
I mean,
Enough.
Hitler gassed them, so
but that's quick.
yeah, that's what I'm
That's
saying.
quick.
I mean, I think Hitler was.
No cyanide.
He was more.
Well, we used to get shame in the United States and the South for, I mean, until the 1970s or
Well,
so.
sure, I'm just saying,
It's
that's
the same.
more humane than burying me alive.
Yeah,
I'd rather
definitely.
die of gas,
But I'm sure they buried some people alive too.
maybe.
You know, I mean, when you kill 6 million, the type kind of
Well, they
varies.
tell the story about how some of them, they thought they were dead
And
and
they
they
weren't.
actually lived and they laid under the bodies until
Yeah.
they were gone. And there's like thousands of bodies and millions of bodies in a ditch. Well, they just pushed the bodies off and walked out. Some of them lived.
But just think of like that action, how creeped out you'd be, right? Like I would like, I might go find a gun as soon as I get out from under there, right? You know, that's not enough. All right, self-reliance. Self-reliance is a big thing under communism. Like most things, not as much Soviet, but is a huge deal in Chinese communism and is a huge deal in DPRK communism, okay? The DPRK, they don't call it that, they call it Juche, to be free of others, okay? Self-reliance, another major thing. It did not mean that the CCP or the PRC should rely only on their own efforts. Rather, the basic thrust of self-reliance is more accurately captured in another of Mao's admonitions. I don't know how to pronounce words. That one should, quote, keep the initiative in one's own hands, end quote. Don't depend on other people for X, Y, or Z. Okay? Be separate. Okay. In reaction, when we consider this Soviet perfidy and the state imposed on China, Mao insisted that in the future, China follow a strategy of national self-reliance. Okay. And its in foreign policy dealings, the PRC under Mao went to significant trouble to minimize its dependence on any single foreign country. All right. Some of you should be noticing right now, that idea is gone in communist China today, right? They heavily depend on other countries now, okay? Heavily depend, okay? US depends on China too, right? We can kill China and China can kill us, right? If we announce a blockade of China, right? We could kill China, the whole country, right? It would never be this powerful. But you'd have decades of suffering here in the US too, okay? Funny enough, I know some of you, a couple of you have taken IR, right? In the IR class, right? When these sanctions work, when the cost that you impose on yourself is really strong, right? That you're willing to signal that you'll suffer for 10 years in order to get a policy change out of another country, that's when sanctions work, right? And so, could you do that? Yes, they did change this, and we'll talk about it whenever we get into the reform section on how it actually worked. All right. The domestic economy, Mao also used self-reliance as a virtue, such as mining, metallurgy, and railways, where the state exercised tight administrative control through national planning. That is what makes communism different than socialism. I know if you're a little bit left, yeah, communist, right? You know, you might think the free market works a little bit better. Nazi, right? But that's not the real difference there. The major difference is that under socialism, there isn't this very strict national economic planning. Under communism, there is, okay? That's where you'll see it, okay? Think about our favorite sort of socialist Scandinavian countries, right? Sweden, you like them? They're okay, right? They're kind of over there, they're kind of cold, but whatever, they're not too bad. They don't have tightly planned national economy, okay? That's not what they do. China, DPRK, Soviet Union, North Vietnam, whenever it was there, tight controls on the economic national planning, okay? All right. Now, you might go, we have some national planning in the US. Not really, okay? We don't even actually have an energy policy, right? We don't actually have an agricultural policy. It's all sort of a mixed mash of different interests coming here, okay? When we say national planning, it means they're gonna tell you how much you're supposed to output, and you need to come through with it, okay? We need to do this, and this, okay?
And right now, America would be considered, the government kind of goes, okay, we're gonna allot you so much if you do this, but we're gonna let you control how you do it, when you do it.
Exactly, and that's not national planning. That's, providing incentives for things that they think will work, right? National planning is, I don't care if this works, you're doing it.
Sure.
Yeah, you're doing this, right? You better bring me my bushel of wheat, right, by the end of the year. You better do this, and this. Here are these people that are gonna oversee you. This is how it's going to be done, okay? In all of these different fields, okay? It also demanded that every part of China try to grow more grain to be self-supporting, okay? Given China's varied topography and climate conditions, the latter impose enormous costs, okay? By requiring grain production in areas totally unsuited for it. Sometimes as a country in national economic planning, you just have to admit when you don't have something and that you're gonna have to import it, okay? China did not go that route, okay? They said, we're going to have all this grain, okay? Even if it was not possible Okay? Think about it this way. It'd be like if in West Texas they said, well, you're gonna need to grow rice out here. Right? It never rains out here. There's no water, right? It's very, very hard to grow rice if you can't do those things. Okay? Under national planned economies like this, that doesn't matter. Okay? They didn't care. Now, later on in the 80s, especially, the Soviets got a little smarter about it and started doing stuff a little bit better, right? And realizing that. But remember, Stalin's 5-year plans looked just the same as Mao's 5-year plans. They didn't go well, okay? And so it was a big, big problem. Okay, does it make sense? Nationally planned economies don't go well. They just don't, generally. All right. Governing system, and we'll be kind of brief on this because we're going to get more of it as we go forward, especially when we start talking about governance from 49 to 76 and what was actually happening at the time, okay? The Maoist administrative system borrowed heavily from the Soviet Union, although it drew some inspiration from China's past, the GMD and the base area experience. Remember, base area being, they were off in this little part, right? And they had to go and seize other places, right? And they had camps that they would work from. At each level of the political system in China, the center, which is Beijing, okay? So think of that as our Washington, D.C. The province, the prefecture, the city, the county, and the locale. There is a full array of party and state organs, with the party, in addition, having committees, branches, and cells embedded within the state organs, okay? Now, under communism, you're not going to have a separate, there's not a difference other than a name between the party and the state, okay? That's not going to be that much different. You may have different people, okay? But it's going to be the same thing. And as we'll realize, whenever they have these party conferences, you'll realize that a bunch of them are from the state, okay? A bunch of the same people. Does that make sense? And so, all right. With their deep attachments to the military, in which they had all spent decades of their lives before 1949, the CCP leaders set up the military as the third nationwide bureaucracy, okay? This is why when you see things in the news, you'll see them clarify the difference between Chinese military and the Chinese government sometimes, okay? They are, I don't want to say totally separate, but the military has enough power to do things that it wants to do independent of the Communist Party. Now, they're all members of the Communist Party, but they take different actions. I don't want to say they go rogue, because they don't go rogue that regularly. But if something really went bad inside the CCP, the military would be there to mop up, right? That's not that dissimilar from, well, prior to Erdogan, things like Turkey, right? Where it had a strong, strong secular military that could come in and reestablish order if politics got really bad. The same thing in China, okay? Of course, any person that's leading China is going to have tons of connections to the military. It's not possible to run China without the military. But the military can't run absolutely everything without the politicians either, okay? That's why you'll see in a lot of intelligence estimates, they'll say Chinese military intelligence, right? Chinese military intelligence is almost separate, okay? They have different segments on how they want to actually operate. They do things that are different. Sometimes they do things without permission, right? So they are a big, big deal. Chinese military, especially military intelligence, about what they do.
So they're like our CIA.
Chinese military intelligence would be if there was one agency that had State Department, INR, CIA, DIA, FBI counterintelligence, FBI Cyber Command, all in one unit. It's more what it would be like, right? So think of the entire United States intelligence community, and that's what we mean when we say Chinese military intelligence. Because they'll separate, right? CIA can't be on the ground in the US. Legally, we know, hey, CIA has performed operations inside the United States in contrary to American law. We know that from declassified things, but the Chinese military intelligence can do things on the ground in China as well. But remember that the party will also have local intelligence services to make sure people aren't dissenting too much. So remember that China also has a pretty formidable police state, as we saw in the Hong Kong protests, right? Tiananmen Square, right? He literally bulldozed over people. I mean, literally, right? And we're not stopping this tank, okay? So they're a little bit different than what we would think of as American intelligence services. But yeah. The PLA, it's what it's called the People's Liberation Army, is thus a core component of the Chinese communist system, okay? It has been moreover purposely kept beyond the government's jurisdiction. The PLA is assigned a bureaucratic rank equal to that of state council, the government's highest level of authority. This means that the government cannot issue binding orders to the military, okay? Rather, the military answers directly to a party body called the Military Affairs Commission, which Mao Zedong personally chaired until his death in '76, okay? So Mao's on top of that, right? Both at state council and at the Military Affairs Commission, okay? And that's why he's so powerful. But if someone under Mao really tried to make the military go do something without Mao's approval, they wouldn't do it. Oh, they wouldn't have to do it, right? And they could just go, no thanks, buddy. Why don't you take a walk, right? So it's a lot different than our system, right? That's a lot different. In ours, we have civilian control of the military. They do not have that. Does that make sense? All right. Chinese communists designed their system with several major goals. One is to be centralized enough to give the top leaders in Beijing leverage to determine the national domestic agenda, to promote and manage rapid industrial development, in part by obtaining resources from the rural sector, and to bring about guided social change. Okay? That's the text from your book says guided social change. That is a really good way of setting police state. I can make them do this, it says. Okay? At each administrative level, a small party committee exercises ultimate power. Okay? And so what you'll see is that there are party organs all over the governments, whether it's local, whether it's prefectural, whether it's province, whether it's city level, there's always a party committee that oversees it a little bit. Okay? I think that's one. All right, at the center of this body, typically having 14 to 24 members, is called the Politburo. Okay? If you know anything about the Soviets, right? It's the same thing, right? They call it the Politburo. Okay? And it has a staff under it called the Secretariat. Mao Zedong served as the chairman of the Chinese Communist Party, and by virtue of this, he headed it. Okay? That's good. The standing committee of the Politburo, usually consisting of 5 to 6, contains the most powerful leaders of the country. Generally, each person in the Politburo also holds at least one substantive position and special responsibility. Okay? Propaganda, education, no, they don't have a torture minister, right? But whatever these may be, similar to what we would think of as cabinet members, right? They advise the president on X, Y, or Z, right? They will be political advisors, but they will also run some other little subdivision as well. Does that make sense? All right. By the way, people left the Politburo. When you leave the Politburo, it's not fun. You don't go spend more time with your family, right? You go to a camp or something like that a lot of times. Okay. Yeah, they don't have a lemonade and cookies retirement party for you, right? That's not what happens. Okay. All right. Communist Party also established a central committee, which had nearly 100 members, 200 through the 70s, and nearly 300 since the 80s. The body held little power. Think of it as the Communist Party's attempt to have like a House of Lords or a House of Commons, or maybe like a United States Senate, but with no real power. Okay. So for example, in the US, right? We had impeachment proceedings, right? I think they're over now, right? Yeah, they're all done. They have real power, right? Ish, right? The United States Senate. Even Britain, in this, no way. They could have never impeached or removed Mao at any point. Okay? Right. You know what's strange about it? Sometimes it looks pretty similar to Alexander Hamilton's idea for the presidency in the United States, right? Those of you who don't know, Alexander Hamilton wanted a president elected for life. Right? So when you elect them, they're there for life, right? We'd still have Jimmy Carter. Right? He's the oldest, you know, the person elected the earliest of all the living presidents, right? So.
I mean, George Washington could have been king.
Yeah, he could have too, right? If he wanted to.
They would have made him king, but he told them he didn't want to. That's his character.
Alexander Hamilton, not so much.
No.
All right. We talk about being virtuous. George Washington's pretty virtuous. Alexander Hamilton, not nearly as virtuous. All right. Membership included those holding some position of great importance, head of a province, also some representative functions as being a model peasant or a model worker, right? We don't have any model peasants in the U.S. Senate, do we? There's no peasants in the Senate, right?
No.
There's no peasants,
No.
we wouldn't have that. All right, the top government body is State Council, established in 54 to replace the Transitional Government Administrative Council, which had existed since they took over in 49. The State Council is headed by the Premier, okay? Premier. A number of vice premiers have specific fields of responsibility. The State Council includes commissions and ministries. Commissions generally take charge of major issues that concern a number of them. So, for example, let's think of one that would be really the FCC, right? It's a commission that oversees a whole bunch of things: the TV, the radio, maybe even soon internet, right? And so that's how they would do a similar thing, although not currently so. All right. The system increasingly employed both ideological indoctrination, okay, indoctrination, and naked force to whip the population into line, okay? Remember how we said that especially Mao's brand of communism, more than the Soviet one, had cult-like features, right? We don't want to say brainwashing. What do they call it? Thought reform, right? These type of practices, and then if you didn't, bad things happen. If you read up about any of the old, I don't even say old, I mean, you can look up Jim Jones, right? He was doing the same thing, right? Thought reform, punishments, public beatings, things of that nature. Okay, so that's why whenever we read about this, we go, "Ooh, it looks like one of those 70s religious cults, right? That we hear about on, you know, the documentaries nowadays, right? Or the Nexium one, right? That came out recently. They have very, very similar processes. Okay. Mass techniques such as political opinion and mass struggle often obscure the distinction between indoctrination and terror. Okay. Now, this is just me. When the secret police come around and they say, "How do you feel about the revolution?" I feel like we haven't gone far enough, sir. Right? Even if I'm a capitalist, right? Right?
Sure.
You don't go, you know, Mao, he just doesn't have it together. We got to get somebody new in there, right? That's a one-way ticket to a camp, right? And so, but is that terror? Yes, it is, right? Because you know beforehand what's going to happen if you don't. So it became hard for very many people it became hard also for the regime to be able to tell who was telling the truth and who wasn't, right? That's why you had false accusations, all these other things all the time, because most people thought like me, right? What do you think about that? Doing a great job, wonderful job, right? Even if I'm having, a reactionary party in the back, right? You're not going to come out and say what you truly feel, okay? And so it became hard also for the Communist Party to be able to assert that too, and you go, oh, well, what do they really feel? Okay, all right. Details of reporting lines, moreover, gives the systems the characteristics of a fragmented authoritarianism. Authoritarian in the discipline demanded from subordinates and the lack of real protections for the people or opportunity for them to articulate their interests. And fragmented in that territorial and functional lines of command intersected in hopelessly complex ways. That's a really good sentence. Like hopelessly complex. Okay. Here, if something really bad happens to you and it's political, you know exactly where to go, right? If it's state, go to your state rep, right? If it's something from the federal government, go to your house rep, right? Get no satisfaction there, call other people, right? It's very, very clear how you address issues, okay? In this system, where would you go? There's nowhere to go if you don't like what the government's doing. There's no possibility. And you have to be very careful about who you talk to, okay? Your own family might turn you in, okay? So imagine what that does for the family unit structure too, right? And how can I see this? Paranoid you have to be every day, right? Now, I will say that it's opened more since Mao's been there, and we'll get into that. But there's still these terror campaigns, right? They didn't just say during the Hong Kong protests, great job out there protesting, gentlemen, right? Oh, you want to be free? Okay, no problem, right? No, it came to beatings, jailings, torture of the protesters, okay? So even though we're talking from 1949 until 1976 with Mao, to say that it all went away whenever Mao left is not true either, okay? I think that's kind of a common problem in how reporting goes about China, right? This isn't Mao's China. Well, it's not Mao's China, but it's not totally different than Mao's China either, okay? It's not, I'm trying to think of a state that wrote, it's not Germany, right? That went from that, well, especially in West Germany, right? To free, open, fair elections almost immediately. It's not like Japan, right? 47, we got the military government, everything's bad, atomic bomb, now everything's good. We have free, fair, open democracy with political rights respected as soon as probably first free and fair election in Japan was held in 49, right? We left in 47, right? That's not a long period. Here, that's not happening, okay? So, so there we go with that. I think that's awesome. I hope that's awesome. I'm tired. All right. Any questions? No? Okay, I'll take us off the record. And I'll post this one and the other one today. I got something to do this afternoon, but other than that, I'll be good. All right, I'm signing off here. Well, I think I'm signing off if I can figure out how to. Ooh. Oh.